Hello and welcome to Future of Mining 365. Today we're joined by Edward Bardo, Director of Mining and Metals at AspenTech. How are you today, Edward?
I'm doing well, and how are you doing today?
Yeah, great, thanks. Thanks a lot for joining us today. So today we're going to be focusing a lot on digitalization, and of course AspenTech are experts in that field. So how would you say digitalization can add value to the metals and mining industry from an AspenTech perspective?
Well, as we well know, mining is a very, very focused industry on process and so forth. Digitization offers the ability to bring a data-driven approach to mining, the ability to actually take a lot of those measures and take this new advanced technologies that we've all heard about and bring it into the very detailed processes of mining to where we can actually improve those things because we're measuring them well. Digitization can improve spaces such as maintainability and reliability, because now we can actually take advantage of new things such as industrial artificial intelligence to look at things, to do things such as predictive and even better, prescriptive maintenance. We can start to optimize processes, things that we thought that, oh, we're just collecting information and learning. We're reacting to certain things that happen, and we can move this more into the predictive optimization space that takes and adapts to the real situations that we're dealing with in mining. And I guess two of the really critical areas that I think mining is very, very interested in, that has become a big focus, is sustainability, helping mines run more sustainably, and also safer. One of the really, really important aspects of digital technology is it truly enables an approach, a data-driven approach towards safety and sustainability.
Excellent. And maybe we could drill a bit deeper into what you were saying about predictive versus prescriptive maintenance. Maybe for our viewers, you could explain what's the difference between those for the mining and metals industry.
That's a really good point, because in many cases, I think, particularly in the mining industry, but certainly in any industry that involves very capital intensive equipment, these terms maybe get thrown about there and it may be a bit confusing. But one of the ways I like to describe it is I like to use something that we can all kind of relate to, and that's our car. Okay, when we think about maintenance of a machine, I think all of us can relate to the challenges and fun of trying to deal with a car. The way I describe predictive maintenance is, let's think of it this way. Standards maintenance practices would be like this. You're driving your car, you have a problem with the charging system. Let's say your alternator fails in your car. How do you know about that? Well, typically what you're going to see is you're going to see a light on the dashboard, perhaps, or some indicator that there's a problem. But at that point, that problem on your vehicle has already impacted you. You've already have to react to that. So for example, what may happen is you're trapped someplace looking to get a jump start, as we've all been in that situation. But so that's kind of reactive. Now what we have to do is find time to go to the shop and get that car repaired. Now let's look at the realm of predictive, how sensing and technology could get us into predictive. Now imagine you're driving your car, and instead of you just getting a light coming on and telling you that you have a problem with the alternator, your car now told you, hey, you've got about a week, 2 weeks to do something about it. Your alternator is having issues. You need to address that, and you have time to do it. Now, instead of being stuck in the parking lot someplace with a battery that isn't charged, or having to take a day off from work unplanned, you have some time to do something about it before it goes. The value of predictive is undeniable there. But think of it a step further. Now imagine if, instead of just telling you you've got 2 weeks to deal with that alternator, your car came back to you and said, you know, you're gonna have a problem with the alternator in 2 weeks. And if you don't park your car in the sun and you keep it away from heat, this problem won't recur. Your alternator will last longer. It could actually prescribe or tell you what to do to try to avoid the situation that contributed to failure this particular time. And so this idea is really valuable in the space of mining, and that's how I like to think of it.
Great answer. Yeah, I think I can definitely identify that. I mean, it's scary enough when lights appear on your car, but if it was a processing operation with $100,000 downtime cost per hour, then it's even more frightening. Now, of course, AspenTech has its MTEL solution, which has secured some great deals lately and some new work. So how have you seen these prescriptive maintenance solutions like MTEL impact on performance, safety, and sustainability?
Okay, well, MTEL is a very powerful tool to allow mines to improve their reliability, their maintenance practices, and of course, I think it has a significant impact on sustainability as well. With MTEL has very advanced predictive analytics in it. So it's likely that with the data that you have already available today in the mine, that we can use this type of tool to kind of look and see both historically and predict into the future where issues might come up. MTEL uses an agent-driven approach to both look at anomalies, things that look unusual to it in the data, and a approach that where it identifies a specific fingerprint of failures and is able to see those coming well in advance of when they come. So how does this impact a mine in terms of safety and sustainability? Well, if we could imagine this type of tool like MTEL is capable of operating across the entire process in mining. So this means on heavy mobile equipment, or HME as we like to say in mining because we like to use acronyms. Or if we imagine in the fixed plant or so in many other places where we might be deploying MTEL, the ability to counteract inefficient operations. If we imagine on heavy mobile equipment, for example, that a machine that is running in a non-optimal state is often emitting more greenhouse gases. It's not performing well. It's obviously going to probably contribute a lot more noxious fumes, this sort of thing. So by keeping it in an optimum operating shape, as we are always told with our cars to do the same, it's likely that we're providing a more sustainable way of doing load and haul. In the plants, if we can use less energy, we can operate them more efficiently, then the footprint that contributes to for sustainability obviously is improved. And for safety, we all know that unplanned incidents in safety, particularly dealing with large machines, definitely is not something that helps us to predict what might happen in a situation, and certainly is challenging us for safety. I like to imagine that when you spend time in a mine and you're in a haul truck or in a light vehicle, and you can imagine that your vehicle breaks down on the haul route in a mine. Yeah, there's nobody who feels that that's a safe situation, right? But being able to mitigate these type of circumstances, these are just many of the examples of where using this type of technology, using MTEL, can certainly mitigate these and prevent these from happening in the first place by clear, planned, advanced warning and knowing what to do.
Right, and excuse me. So obviously there's lots of different sized miners in the industry. What kind of assets do they typically start with or focus on when they're implementing these solutions?
Well, that's a very good question, because that often becomes a bit of a discussion with various mines. So it depends. It depends on the particular situation at a mine. What we typically try to do is address their high value assets and ask the question, where would we make the biggest impact? So this is all about making an impact, helping the mine improve what it is that they're doing and addressing the biggest hitters. And so in many cases, we might start in the fixed plant, for example, in some of the big pieces of machinery that might cause them significant problems should they go down. An example might be a SAG mill or a ball mill. If in many cases in mines, there isn't a whole lot of redundancy in this space, and having unplanned maintenance is an issue. But the value can go beyond that too, because, for example, if the criticality of that equipment drives them to over maintain it. So for example, if they're inspecting the liners, they're stopping things to inspect the liners fairly regularly because they're so concerned about downtime. The ability to eliminate some of that based on using something like using MTEL to provide the trust and capability of warning them well in advance that you have an issue really helps those operations. But lately, there's been a really big push in the mobile equipment space. Many mines have spent a significant portion of their maintenance budget on mobile equipment, heavy mobile equipment. And so this might be another area that we visit with them. So we can use tools that we have. For example, we have a tool that models the processes called Fidelis that we can use to model and show the impact of any one asset or component of that asset going down and what that does to their final results for the day or for the period that they choose. And so we work with them to select the critical assets. We judge the maturity based on sensing information and other types of things. And then together with them, we select the assets that are likely to give them a big impact in the quickest amount of time.
Great, and just like there are mining companies of different sizes and shapes. So too are some of them are different stages of their digitalization journey. How could a company examining their data know that they are ready for a solution like this?
In many cases, since MTEL, for example, is extremely flexible in its capabilities and scalable, one of the things that often we do in that selection process of choosing assets, for example, of what specific critical assets do you have that you need to monitor? What we do is we often look at those and try to judge the maturity of, well, what type of data do we have? What sensing is available? How are we bringing that information forward and making it accessible so that analytics can be used on it? And in many cases, they're surprised to find that certain OEMs on big equipment already provide that type of sensing on board, and perhaps they're not using it. In other cases, what we do is by showing them the capabilities of a tool like MTEL, it starts them down that journey of putting the appropriate sensing and tools in place such that they can enable the pathway to using a tool like MTEL fairly quickly. So depending on their stage, and like you said, there can be a variety of different stages. Some are in the early stages where they say, and we hear this a lot, we hear this idea, oh, we're just not ready for this. I mean, that's too futuristic, it's too complex. But no, in reality, there's a very good chance, given the assets and things that you have on site, even as a small mine, that a tool like MTEL can provide value right away. It's just you work with a subject matter expert to help you select critical assets, and then you scale as you advance, as your technology for sensing and collection comes together. Then you can scale. In addition, we can help you on that journey by providing some of the infrastructure tools that help you get connected into this space so that it helps drive all of that together, even to the point that we can supply the data historian to bring that information together in a centralized location from equipment.
Great, and you mentioned seeing the benefits and the real world benefits of it quite quickly. So what kind of measurements or metrics are used in those benefits, and what kind of things are being achieved with it?
So this, the definition for success is often driven by the customer, but in many cases, their definition of success right away is demonstrate to me that you can detect the type of things that we've already dealt with. So historically, we start by building their confidence and demonstrating success by saying, okay, show us some of the old data that you've had in the logs that demonstrate where you've had to have a maintenance stop to deal with this particular issue, or you've had a failure, or you've had some incident like this. And then success initially is demonstrating to them that we would have caught that and we would have predicted it in an early amount of time, and we can tell them something about why it happened. So stage one. Stage two, of course, is then the belief is, let's see if we can do this online, if we can do this in the real world in real time. So we're bringing this information in. And often the first metric for success is giving them advanced warning on a critical piece of equipment that something is going to happen without hitting them with a bunch of false alarms, without giving them excess information, but real simple to understand, critical decision support type information that says, here's an issue, there's where it's at, this is approximately about the time, this is probably, this is the type of information that's causing this. This is something you should address. And then finally, of course, as they advance and their maturity level increases in the use of MTEL, one of the ways that they often describe success in the KPI for value for them is when they actually can take advantage of prescriptive maintenance and actually change the way they do things to get the highest order of value. So if it means, in some cases, very significant changes in your maintenance processes and workflows, and adapting those to, again, the data-driven approach, changing those to eliminate a lot of these issues. And at the same time, just changing doesn't necessarily have to be so painful that it doesn't bring immediate benefit. Some of these changes could mean that you reduce the amount of work you do because you're now maintaining less. It could be this approach. So there's a lot of different KPIs that they can do in various stages as they advance through this journey to definitely see improvement and We always work on with a specific mind to make sure that the KPI that they've defined for success and how they see success is aligned with what we're delivering.
Great. And with these kind of solutions, some companies might think, oh, does it need to run for a long time to gather data before I see benefits? How long does it typically take before companies can start to see those solutions taking effect?
Well, one of the things that we try to do to determine this is that we have the customer help us choose some of the assets that we can apply this type of predictive prescriptive maintenance tools on. With them, if we have something, for example, that likely fails 10 times a year fairly regularly for them, then obviously they're going to get they're going to be able to see the results of what we see and do with that fairly quickly. But if they, for example, they start to monitor a particular, let's just say theoretically they monitor a ball mill and they're over maintaining it right now. So it never fails because they over maintain it. They really invest a lot in maintenance to try to keep that thing up and running. But we may not see something right away there because if they're over maintaining it so well, there isn't going to be a failure. But there's a cost to that, obviously. It's a real significant cost to them. We've seen incidences where shortly after doing an offline pilot, and when I say offline pilot, what I mean is that we take historical data if they have it, and we run through and see what would have happened in the past if we had received that data in real time and kind of showed them what would have done. But we've seen results as quickly as during the deployment. So right during the deployment, we've got significant catches on critical equipment while we were actually deploying the software that quickly. The other thing that I like to mention here too is that with MTEL, it's very scalable. So if, for example, we're in the midst of deployment and say we're doing this on heavy mobile equipment, if we find that we've created a significant profiler agents for that particular piece of equipment and that equipment is duplicated within the mine, it becomes very scalable. It becomes very scalable to grow it as quickly as we need to without having to go through the same process over and over again. And so this is a real advantage to scalability. And then this type of approach can be taken to where we're talking from the smallest level where the results and wins come from a specific asset or a subcomponent. So when we talk about asset, it might be a component of a big machine. And then it scales all the way up to the point where you can imagine someone at a larger multinational mining company with an integrated remote operations center managing mines and using predictive prescriptive maintenance tools and managing it and getting all this information centrally from across the globe from multiple mine sites. And this is the capability of using industrial AI tools like this, is that they could certainly scale to the enterprise, which is what mining is about in many cases.
Fantastic. That was all the questions I had today, Edward, but I just want to leave it there and say thank you very much for your time and your insights into AspenTech's MTEL.